Notice something unsettling. Your life is not being shaped in those rare cinematic moments. It is being shaped in the quiet, almost invisible decision you are making right now. The decision to stay where you are or to move. The decision to scroll or to sit with your own thoughts. The decision to speak or to remain silent. It does not feel historic. It does not feel heroic. In fact, it feels ordinary, almost too small to matter. And yet, years from now, when you try to trace the architecture of your life, why you became who you became, why certain doors opened while others sealed shut, you will not find a single explosive turning point. You will find a pattern, a single decision repeated daily. There is a version of you that already exists 10 years from now. That person wakes up in a specific room. They move through a specific routine. They carry a particular posture in their shoulders. They speak with either quiet confidence or lingering hesitation. They have relationships that either feel nourishing or strained. They look in the mirror and see either discipline or regret. That future is not drifting towards you randomly. It is being constructed quietly by one choice, the choice of who you are becoming, not someday, today. You might think you are waiting for clarity, waiting for motivation, waiting for the right moment to finally decide who you will be. But while you wait, the decision is still being made. Indecision is a decision. Avoidance is a decision. Comfort is a decision. And every time you default to what is easy, familiar, or numbing, you are casting a vote, not for the life you say you want, but for the life you are unconsciously building. This is not a story about sudden transformation. There will be no overnight reinvention here, no dramatic montages, no myth of instant mastery. This is about something quieter, more dangerous, more powerful. The single decision that shapes your entire life is not what career you choose. It is not who you marry. It is not where you live. It is whether you choose growth over comfort. And you are making that decision right now in ways so subtle you barely notice. So, before we go any further, pause. Listen carefully. Because by the end of this story, you will realize something unsettling and liberating at the same time. You have already been deciding your future. The only question is whether you will finally decide it consciously. Stop. It is at the breaking point that the first seeds of transformation are planted. The moment when you can no longer remain passive, when the silent accumulation of small, repeated decisions, the scrolls, the distractions, the hesitations, collides with the unbearable weight of dissatisfaction. Here, at this intersection of awareness and discomfort, you face a profound truth. The life you have been living is optional, and the life you could build, the life you are capable of, is waiting. The question is simple, but terrifying. Will you continue to drift, or will you finally choose deliberately? Will you claim the one decision that shapes everything? Stop. Chapter 3: The Ancient Discovery. Long before modern psychology, before self-help books lined shelves and motivational talks filled auditoriums, humans were already searching for the mechanism that shapes a life. In quiet monasteries perched on cliffs, in dusty libraries where candlelight flickered across ancient scrolls, sages and philosophers recorded the same truth again and again. The self is not born fully formed. It is built, quietly, through repeated choices. In the monasteries of the East, the monks taught that life is a series of small, deliberate acts. A single morning devoted to mindfulness, they said, is more potent than 1,000 unreflective days. The Greeks in their sunlit academies spoke of ethos, the character cultivated through habitual action. Aristotle described virtue not as an idea, but as a repeated practice. In every corner of the ancient world, thinkers arrived at the same conclusion. Mastery of the self is not sudden, it is incremental. There is a story from the deserts of Egypt. A young student asked his teacher, "How do I become wise?" The teacher handed him a small pebble and instructed him to carry it every day. The student obeyed, confused, until months later the teacher asked, "What have you learned?" The student replied, "I have learned patience." The teacher nodded, and that is the beginning. All great change begins with one small act, repeated deliberately until it shapes your life. These stories, passed down across generations, share a single remarkable insight. Transformation is never accidental. The future self you desire does not emerge spontaneously. It is the product of repeated, often invisible choices. The pebble carried day after day becomes a symbol, a ritual, a training ground for the mind and will. It is unremarkable to the outside eye, yet decisive in its effect. Imagine your life as a river, its course etched over centuries. You do not need to leap into its source to change it. You only need to place a small stone or remove one at the right point. Slowly, subtly, the current redirects. That stone, seemingly insignificant, is your daily decision. One choice made consistently can alter the flow of an entire lifetime. The ancients understood this intuitively long before we had neuroscientific studies to validate the principle. They spoke of ritual, habit, discipline, not as constraints, but as instruments of freedom. To control your actions, to direct your thoughts, to choose attentively is to shape the very architecture of your being. It is both simple and profound. Simple because it requires nothing more than your attention and commitment. Profound because it alters the trajectory of your life in ways the untrained mind cannot immediately see. Even in their simplicity, these practices were not easy. The monks, the philosophers, the seekers, they wrestled with themselves daily. Temptation, distraction, laziness, fear, these forces were constant adversaries, yet they persisted. Why? Because they understood that life is forged in the ordinary, not the extraordinary.